Aaron Rodgers is the talk of Radio Row. The Las Vegas Raiders, could that be his destination? I can barely take 6 steps and not get someone ask me that question. So we talked to your boy Q from Locked On Raiders about that, plus a lot more on today's show.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. We've got a ton of great stuff coming from Radio Row this week. Jalen Hyatt coming tomorrow. Cam Smith, South Carolina defensive back, coming tomorrow. We've got Carson Palmer coming later in the week. Brian Robinson, the running back from the Washington Commanders, coming later in the week. So we get a little league, a little rookie, a lot of fun stuff coming up. Maybe some media people you've heard of that you may know. So a lot to get to here on Super Bowl Radio Row. But we have to start with Aaron Rodgers. He spoke to Pat McAfee from Radio Row. I actually got to watch it just right over there for those of you who are watching on YouTube to see what was going on. What was he thinking? Now he's going to go on some 4-day darkness retreat to try and make a decision on all of this. We don't know what that decision looks like, but I'll tell you, over the weekend, the betting odds flipped. And it went from, okay, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Green Bay Packer, to no, the Las Vegas Raiders are heavy favorites to be the suitor, the top suitor, and eventually the winner of the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. Now, look, the betting markets are speculative and almost solely so on these kinds of player movement things. Rarely are they driven by insider information. But when the big books, not just like your friend Paulie who's going to give you 6-1 on the Raiders. No. We're talking about the big companies whose business is figuring out who's going to do what and when. When those numbers change like that, it does make you wonder. And now all of this information is coming out, all of the rumors, the buzz. Again, every person I talk to, this question comes up, and it's not just me. It is your boy Q from Locked On Raiders, who I spoke to about this very thing. We're here on Radio Row, Locked On Podcast Network. Yeah. We got Locked On Sports today, Locked On Packers, Peter Bukowski, and it's your boy Q from Locked On Raiders. Q, we got a lot going on around here for Radio Row, but our two teams have been kind of the talk of what's going on in the NFL that's not going to take place on Sunday at Glendale. So what do you make of all of this noise around Aaron Rodgers and the Las Vegas Raiders right now?
I'll tell you right now, I never thought this was something that was even possible. The conversation was possible. You actually are the one that made me think that there was a possibility, and now all of a sudden it feels like it's happening, right? I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It could be an Aaron Rodgers, well, it's not going to happen. But, because, I mean, he does that, right? But, man, it's the talk of every table here. I can't even walk to the bathroom without people saying, hey, Rodgers to Vegas, huh? I was like, I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't know.
It's really different from last year when I was doing the same thing, and I would walk around like, what's Rodgers going to do?
Right.
What's Rodgers going to do? And then it was sort of, is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? Now it seems like he's going to come back. He's going to play. It's the Jets. It's the Raiders. From a football standpoint, I was talking about this on Locked On Packers the other day. The best situations for Aaron Rodgers. Do you think the Raiders are the best football situation for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I think the best team is probably the Jets, but I think the best familiarity is probably the Raiders, just because of Davante Adams. I mean, I think that would immediately, like the whole thing that we were sold last year was that, oh man, Carr to Adams is going to be fantastic. They were old, they were in college together, teammates, Man, these guys were together in the NFL and were very successful together. So I think that would make a lot more sense.
What is the timeline right now for Derek Carr to have a decision made? Because we know starting next week, The Raiders do not want him on their football team. So what does that mean for the market? When is this all going to get done, do you think?
I honestly believe they're just going to end up releasing him. I don't see a team that's going to trade for him knowing he's got to be gone by February 15th, or else they're going to have to pay him all that money. So unless some team says, hey, you know what, let's just give up a 5th or 6th round pick just to trade for him, I think he's going to end up getting released sooner rather than later. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest with you.
So we're at the Super Bowl, right? If the Raiders make this kind of move, presumably it's because they think they can win the Super Bowl doing it. Do you think a move like this to get Aaron Rodgers could, I don't know, Las Vegas, home Super Bowl next year?
Right. Well, I mean, look, it can make him a playoff team, right? I mean, that's how good Aaron Rodgers is, but the defense has to be addressed. The defense has to be
That's all you need, though. Just get into the dance.
Right, exactly. Once you get into the dance, I mean, all bets are off, right? Anything could happen. But, yeah, they've got to improve that defense, but Aaron Rodgers could get you to the playoffs for sure.
So where do we go from here? Well, 4 days from now, Aaron Rodgers will emerge from his chrysalis, a butterfly, and have a decision made. Coincidentally, that's going to line up well with what's going on with Derek Carr. As we're recording this, Derek Carr gets permission to talk to the New Orleans Saints about a potential contract situation, a contract negotiation, and that could put him in New Orleans, which means now the New York Jets and the Las Vegas Raiders would each be free to pursue Rodgers. The Raiders potentially replete with new draft capital, which could add a little sweetener in all of this. They already have a top 10 pick to offer. What if they have, I don't know, another first-round pick this year that they could offer for Aaron Rodgers? That would certainly make for a compelling deal. We don't know what's going to happen. We're probably not going to get an answer this week. I want to talk about one more thing on today's show before we get to what is going to be a loaded week of guests and interviews and great stuff. Short episode today because I don't want to overwhelm you and because the Packers aren't playing in the Super Bowl. That just kind of sucks. Before we get there, today's episode brought to you by the Ultimate Football GM. You've heard me talk about this mobile game app, and it is really, really fun. We did a competition with all the Locked On NFL hosts. Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers was our Locked On NFL champion. I did not place, but I will say I probably did not spend as much time on it as Chris did. That is just life with a toddler. I don't have as much time as I would like to do some of these games because when I did play it, it was really fun. It was really, really fun because it is all the things about being a GM that you think about: hiring the coaches, trading players, negotiating contracts. But it's more than that. It's building a staff. It's developing players. It's picking the right players based on traits. It's about getting the right scouting staff. It's about having the right resources and creating enough revenue to have the right resources at your disposal. And you can play it for years and years and years and years in the game. You don't have to actually play it for years and years and years. In real life, that's the beauty of it. You play 20 seasons if you want. It's that all-encompassing. And Locked On Packers listeners can get a 100% free boost to their franchise when they use the promo code Locked On in the game store. That's Locked On. So make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. The other thing that I wanted to talk about on the show today is Christian Watson in an ESPN redraft. He goes top 10 in the new redraft. Quay Walker sticks at 25, and Romeo Doubs shows up in the second round. Now, to the Packers, and the thinking from Rob Bukowski, who was the one making these picks, was, well, they didn't get Christian Watson in the redraft, and so you have to get the receiver. But Romeo Doubs was one of the best rookie receivers in the league last year. It was not a long list of great players. Guys like Sky Moore and Alec Pierce did not produce at the level that we thought they might. But still, Romeo Doubs did a heck of a job over the course of the season. So what I think this shows is the level of talent that they added via the draft this last year is remarkable. To get a player who ends up going in the top 10 on redraft, and they got him in the second round. That's pretty remarkable. Now, I think reasonable people can disagree about the value of Quay Walker at 22, and it's not something that I would advocate for personally, but the fact that there is this perception that pick was worth it and continues to be worth it, and if you could do it again, you wouldn't take it back. I think that is pretty compelling. Now, the Devontae Wyatt draft pick ends up being George Karlaftis, who goes to the Chiefs. He is playing this week, and one of the reasons why the Chiefs are here is they have 10 rookies contributing on this football team. 4 of them are going to start. Generally, that's not a recipe for success, but when you have a quarterback who can cover for you in so many ways, that just makes your life so much easier. And the Packers, I think, thought coming into the season that would be what Aaron Rodgers would do for them. And he hasn't, for whatever reason. And there are myriad reasons for it, right? Injuries, cohesion on the offensive line, rookie receivers, this very issue. And so it's not to say that, the Packers should be in the Super Bowl. No. But I thought they had a better draft. I still believe they had a better draft than the Kansas City Chiefs. What they didn't have was a defense that played as well as the Chiefs, despite the fact that I think the Packers have more total talent on that side of the ball. That is a credit to Steve Spagnuolo and a debit from Joe Barry. By the way, Steve Wilkes is a defensive coordinator. Brian Flores now a defensive coordinator in the division. These are guys that Green Bay could have signed. But the Packers, I thought, added enough talent to be in the mix here. I don't think the Chiefs have more talent on defense. I don't think the Chiefs have more talent on offense, frankly. Now, Travis Kelce, incredible player, of course. But I think the Packers, when their offensive line is fully healthy, is better than Kansas City's. And so it makes you go, well, what's the difference? And the difference is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes played like the MVP. He's going to win the MVP. Aaron Rodgers did not play like the MVP and is not going to win the MVP. He played like an MVP the last 2 seasons when they had Davante Adams. He did not play like an MVP this season. Now, is that proof that Davante Adams is the reason? No, of course not. But it does, I think, put into stark contrast the plans of these two teams. Not that different. They were trying to hold this together with Scotch tape and rookies, and they did it because Patrick Mahomes was awesome, and they successfully adapted their offense. Green Bay was not able to do the same. Can they this year? I think that goes a long way in driving your decision on what you're going to do with Aaron Rodgers. And it could go a long way in deciding what Aaron Rodgers is going to do when it comes to his decision coming up.
Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy because you don't have to beat some gambling bro. You don't have to beat the algorithms with all the people putting in 1,000 lineups. No, you just have to beat the Prize Picks number. Patrick Mahomes passing yards or Jalen Hurts rushing yards. Put them together, you've got a lineup. And now you can win up to 25 times your money. NBA season, having a lot of fun. College basketball, WNBA, women's college basketball, golf, esports, NASCAR, tennis, Euro basketball. They will let you make a lineup for just about anything. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to learn more and play daily fantasy sports. Plus, Locked On users can get a 100% instant deposit bonus up to $100 with that promo code Locked On. Just for listening to the show, they'll give you money. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But you have to go to Prize Picks and enter the promo code Locked On with that first deposit. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best way to get something delicious that is also going to be fuel for your body. I've been under the weather the last couple days. Stomach not right. And you know what has still tasted really good to me? Built Bar. And I know that when I eat that, it's going to taste delicious. Number one, it's going to make me feel better because it is delicious. Coconut puff, let's go. Brownie batter puff, let's go. But it's also going to give me fiber that I need. It's going to give me protein, 17 grams, and it's going to be low in sugar, 4 grams. My stomach, not into sugar right now. So I have something that's going to help fill me up, that's going to fuel my body, fuel my recovery, and also not upset my stomach with all that sugar and not undermine all of the good stuff that it's providing me with a bunch of sugar. So I went to Built.com and I ordered my bars. But that's because I have a toddler. I don't have time to be running around. Maybe you do. Maybe you go to Walmart. Maybe you go to Sam's Club and just shop. Great. Built Bar is there. So check it out the next time you're at Walmart or Sam's Club to get your box right now.
All right, that is going to do it for us today on Locked On Packers. We have a lot more, as I said, coming this week. Jalen Hyatt, I'm really excited to talk to him because I think he is someone that the Packers are going to have their eye on. And I think Cam Smith underrated corner could be an early pick, especially if Rasul Douglas is moving to safety. Someone I'm excited for you guys to hear from. And I want to talk to Carson Palmer about this Aaron Rodgers stuff, because he did once threaten to retire as a leverage play, and that was brought up actually because he had the same agent as Aaron Rodgers, who 2 years ago threatened to retire if he didn't get his way. So some interesting parallels. I'm going to talk to Carson about all of that coming up later in the week. You can follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live, you can do that on our Locked On Packers YouTube page to stay Locked On Packers.